OG live stream.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Malki Kawa, here we go.
He was checking the credentials first. He's like,
listen, my guy's on the table, so it's all good. But I just was trying to see the stream. I'm like, okay, this is what it looks like. All right, good stuff.
How we doing?
Malki, what are you doing this weekend, man? I mean, is it just accompanying everybody? Is there business to be done? Or
Yeah. Some business getting done, bro. Some big business getting done. You know what I mean? You know, we signed Bo Nickal to the UFC, so that was a big deal. You know what I mean? That was pretty cool. I'm here with Ilya Topuria, Andrei Arlovsky. I got to go meet Dana and Hunter in a little while. Got some other business to do there. So you know how it is. It's just normal stuff. Nothing crazy.
Can I ask you about Ilya Topuria?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm from the UK. Obviously, he fought in London most recently.
Yeah.
What weight class are you putting him in? Because obviously,
45.
He fought at 55.
Yeah.
Had an incredible knockout over Jai Herbert.
Yeah.
That was a tough fight for him for a while, and then he just came back one of the knockouts of the year.
Yeah.
But you're putting him at 45 because that's his optimum weight, right?
Yeah. That's his optimum weight. Yeah. Just what happened was he had really. Oh, you know what about fighters is that when they get into the sport, sometimes they think that when they get some success, they start to switch things up because they think something else might be better. Yeah. And the guy helping him with his weight cuts, who had always got him to the scale and always made weight, he decided to go with somebody else that sold him on a dream that he could eat chocolate and you know what I mean, eat ice cream the week off and stuff. And I said, Ilya, you know, if you would have told me that, I'd have hung up on you, and that guy never would have made it to you know, the fight week. Yeah. And he started laughing. He was like, dude, I'm sorry, bro. He's like, he just had a really rough weight cut. It was bad. And he got sick and all types of shit that week. Well, you got to also remember, man, COVID's been running around. And so when you're coming off of COVID and you're trying to go to a fight and you're weight cutting and all that, your body's just going through stuff. And so, you know, it was just a lot of, you know, stakes in the decision making there that cost him that. But he'll be fine because after that, he's back with his guys and everything, so he should be good to go. Yeah,
he's 15th right now in the official UFC.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? You guys want to know what's funny? He's legitimately asked for all the killers in the division. He wants to fight Movsar, right? Which is a fight. Still wants to fight Movsar. He's asked for Dan Ige a couple times. All these guys that are ranked ahead of him, and a lot of guys are just they're not taking the fights. So it's been tough to get him a fight. But we'll see what happens. There's a lot of fights coming up. A lot of guys are going to shake out, and you know what I mean. Hopefully, we'll get him a good fight and get him in there. You know what I mean? This guy wants to fight the best of the world. So
did you say Bo Nickal signed to the UFC?
Yeah. What you think he's doing here?
Like a developmental contract, or
no? There's no such thing as a developmental contract.
So is he going to fight in the UFC next?
Well, he's fighting the contender next.
Nice.
Yeah, he's fighting the contender next at 1-0.
That's incredible.
He signed to the UFC though, John. You know, you got to understand what I'm trying to tell you. You know what I mean?
Break for us, John. Come on, don't throw the guy away.
No, he's he's in the contender, but you know how that goes. Once he wins, then he's in. So
you believe this? I mean, everybody's been saying for a while this guy's next level talent.
Yeah. This is. I mean, listen. How many guys have you ever seen asked to wrestle Chimaev and Khabib in the same night?
Nobody.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Hey, Reed Harris, fuck you too. All right. Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
We do things a little bit different over here.
Let me my guy right here. You know what I mean? Hey, listen to me. This is the funniest shit. So you guys know this. Before the pandemic, I used to come to a lot of this stuff. And then after the pandemic, I stopped coming to a lot of this shit because I have a whole staff now, and it's crazy how big that we've gotten, you know? And so a lot of my fighters are upset that I don't come out. So I said, hell with it. I'm going to come to this International Fight Week. I'll be here. I pull up to the fucking, to this shit's a fucking bullshit ass show anyway, right? So I pull up to the, to the front of this thing, and one of the Fight Pass guys comes out, and he's like, hey, man, I'm sorry, I only have a credential for Bo. He's got 4 of them in his hands. I'm like, bro, I've been doing this a lot longer than you were born. He's like 20 years old and shit. You know what I mean? You better show some fucking respect to the OG before I fucking smack the shit out of you. Shit was funny as hell.
That's amazing. Hey, what are we going to get done for Masvidal? I just talked to him the other day. I know he's kind of waiting to get everything worked out or whatever. But what do you think the fight, when he can fight? What's the fight to make?
Someone in that top 5, bro. Someone in that top 5. You know what I mean? Listen, you know, the first fight he took on 6 days' notice with Kamaru. I mean, by the way, I want to preface this by saying Kamaru Usman deserves everyone's respect. He's taken every single fight. He's one of the pound for pound best. He's not John Jones, but he's one of the pound for pound best, right? He deserves all the respect in the world. And Masvidal took that on 6 days' notice, and then the next fight, you know, Masvidal was doing good in that first round, and then he gets caught and he gets KO'd. Which, by the way, vicious knockout. I'm not taking nothing away from him, so that haunts him a little bit, right? So he wants to fight somebody, get his name back in there in that top 5, beat somebody, and then he wants to fight Kamaru one last time, and then that might be it, you know what I mean, and see what happens. You know what I mean? He wants to really give it his all and go from there. So we'll see what's up. So we're looking for that fight. You know, he's dealing with some injuries. He's dealing with some stuff that he's, you know, suffered in training camp. He's obviously got some, you know, legal issues he's got to deal with. once all that stuff settles and clears, we'll sit down and take a look at it. Could be Gilbert Burns. It could be anybody that's in that top 5. I mean, whoever's going to get him to the title shot next. Now, the beautiful thing about it too is, if Leon beats Kamaru,
now that changes.
I mean,
everything.
you got the 3-piece in the soda.
It's a slam dunk, isn't it?
Yeah.
That fight has to happen.
I mean, it has to happen. And then there would be no better way than for him to go fight Leon, and then to fight Kamaru after that, right? So it's like if you ever wanted to write a story, right? But you got to rely on Leon beating Kamaru. So
and Leon said it himself. He said, "If I win the belt, Masvidal's first time."
Yeah, 100%. And Masvidal, and we accept that challenge right now. But he's got to beat Kamaru Usman. You know what I mean? And that's a tall order for anybody. So
now you guys are Leon fans for at least one night.
I'm never going to be anybody's fan. You know what I'm saying? Come on, but I've been doing this too long to fall for that. But no, listen, absolutely. Look, you know what I mean? If to me, for the sport, for Masvidal, for Leon even, you know what I mean? If Leon wins that belt and he gets to fight Masvidal for that belt in London, that's going to be the biggest payday of Leon's career. And deservedly so. If he beats Kamaru, he deserves that. And I think, Masvidal will be up for that task and would love to do it. And, nothing respect for all those guys. You know what I mean? They're all great fighters.
It's interesting talking about Masvidal. That London show where he knocked out Till and then went backstage and clipped Leon. That was really the start.
Correct.
It's like a 16-year overnight success.
You guys want to know something funny about that? You want to know something funny about that whole story? You know that fight was actually, we used to represent Ponzinibbio at that time. And that fight was actually offered to Ponzinibbio, and he didn't want that fight for some reason. And Masvidal just came out of that reality show that we put him in,
right?
Because he was going through a lot of personal stuff. We had to clear him. I mean, the work that Abraham did with Masvidal is probably some of the best management work I've ever seen in this sport. Get that it's our business or not. The fact that he got him to go away, got him paid to go away, clear his head, no phone, no nothing, really changed everything. And then when Ponzinibbio said no to that fight, sheesh, like it, you know what I mean? It opened the door for him to go in there. Masvidal goes in, and Masvidal takes advantage of that opportunity. Remember, he had just lost, I think, to Tyron.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he's the number one guy in the world, and then he goes and beats him. And that's exactly right. Then he has the 3-piece in the soda in the back.
And then that was it. Rocky
and then after that, he goes and has that knockout, and then beats Nate, and he's on top of the world. You know what I mean?
It's
so
insane. And
yeah,
for someone who had been in the sport for as long as he had,
mm-hmm.
and was one of these fighters where he went through a spell where he'd lose by split because he's almost
somebody wants to talk to you.
He's almost
more breaking news.
It's nonstop. No, I've actually 3 football players that have just called me right now.
You're a big NFL guy now.
Yeah,
well,
big NFL.
It's NBA season too, right? You dabbling in there?
I don't fuck with NBA yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
No, we're getting there. But bro, John, it's too much, bro. I don't sleep that much. It's a lot of work. I got to be in a lot of different places at the same time. We just put a contract on a building. So First Round Management now has its own building, stuff like it's gonna be the art, real badass. You know what I'm saying? So we've grown a lot. So it's just there's a lot of things going on.
The NFL side, there's a lot of regulation and stuff as to your role, right? Do you think we could ever see that in MMA?
We should. Listen, I think the reason, look, I know fighter pay is a hot subject right now. And what's crazy is that, believe it or not, all my clients get paid, and they get paid very well. You know what I mean? Masvidal, one of the highest paid, if not top 3 in the company, right? You got a guy like Derek Lewis, one of the top paid. Derek Lewis, top 3 in the heavyweight division, right? And I can go on and show you examples of guys that are getting paid. And I really believe it's the level of management in this business where, for them to stay afloat, they have to just do whatever. And they're so excited to take a picture with Dana White that, you know what I mean? They don't, what do you call it? They don't get the job done. And I would love to see some sort of system where the guys are educated on how to actually operate. What does it really mean if working somebody's fiduciary duty? What's your fiduciary duty? What does that mean when you're working on behalf of a guy? You know what I mean? And I got a wonderful relationship with the UFC. You know what I mean? Me and Hunter Campbell are super close. Me and Dana are super cool, but me and Dana, we used to go at it, for all these years.
Yeah.
So we're cool though, because Dana's different now. Dana, I feel like, you know what I mean, in a whole different world right now. He's like enjoying himself and shit. So, you know what I mean? Everything's cool, but you got to be able to sit down and really do business. You know what I mean? And I really feel like there's really maybe one other management company that does that. Everybody else is just kind of try to get a deal done, try to get a fight done, and just take this and take that. And people don't understand, this is when you're in football and you understand that structure and how revenues work, you come to MMA and you hear all this noise about fighter pay and you're like, yo, the reason why it doesn't work is because nobody really understands what the revenues are and what does that mean for each individual fighter. You can't tell me a fighter that's 5-0 that just signed off the street had no real traction and nobody knows who they are, you're just going to give them a base salary and a number, you know what I mean, to fight in this promotion, when in reality, being an employee of a promotion like this is a completely different ballgame. I mean, you're talking about, I need you to fight Saturday, and you're going to fight so-and-so, and if not, you're going to get docked. And so now all these, you know, and how does that all work? And then what if you got a counter on the card and he's generating a lot of the revenue? Well, then who really gets anything else? So it's like, it's just people don't understand it, right? And so until you understand it, you're never going to get some of the things that you're probably looking for. And so we'll probably never see a system where managers are regulated and have rules that they got to abide by, and that certain things that they got to do for, you know, fighters and stuff, if that makes sense.
It's a shame. I feel like it'd be valuable, man. I feel like there's no barrier to entry for guys to come in. So you got fighters that maybe their uncle from down the street
exactly
or
what
whatever.
It is.
You want to know a funny story about that, John?
No. My favorite one is the managers that are the gym owners, the guys that are the coaches that, you know what I mean, that fought at some point, never knew how to manage themselves. Now they're going to manage a group of fighters. I mean, dude, it's like, I'm the only guy in the business that's done a $100 million deal in the NFL. I'm the only guy you just saw the other deals I just did. Oh, no, there's no comparison, bro. You guys can talk to any manager in this business. None of them have any of the experience I have. The only guy that's come close to doing anything similar was Adi at Paradigm with Conor, with that boxing match with Floyd, and that's a once-in-a-lifetime type thing. But I've continually done stuff. I mean, bro, you got to remember, guys, the Nike deal with John was what set off the Reebok deal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not get shit twisted. I'm a fucking OG in this bitch. I've been the best in this motherfucking game. I'm always going to be the best, whether I show up every single fucking week or not. I don't give a listen, whether I train with fighters, you know what I'm saying, and run around fucking in terrorist cells or not, I'm still going to be the greatest fucking fight manager in this fucking game. So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit anybody ever. We do real well for our clients, and anybody that ever wants to question that, pound for pound, I'll show it to them any day of the week. I legitimately will take one of their fighters in their weight class and compare it to the same guy, and I bet you they got more coming. But that's, again, level of the management that you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
What's been the most satisfying deal that you've done, whether it be NFL, whether it be MMA, like the one deal that you look back at and go, that's the one I'm proudest of? It might have been the hardest to do. It might have been an athlete you worked with for years that you finally got the big payday for. Is there one that you could sort of hang your hat on and go, yeah, that's the one I'm proudest of?
There's a couple, you know what I mean? Because it would be hard for me to sit here and tell you one, because the Tyron Woodley Jake Paul deal, I felt like was one of those where, like, I was super happy because I actually sold it to Jake Paul's people. Like, bro, he's on his way out. It's a UFC guy, and fucking, you know what I'm saying? You know, he's old, and you guys should be able to beat him easy, right? And the first fight was not an easy fight, and I thought Tyron was winning that fight, and then towards the end he started to, to fade a little bit, and then the second one fucking got hit, but he made a lot of money in that fight, and I'm really proud of that one. But I'm also, believe it or not, I'm very proud of Mike Perry. The deal right now with MVP, for him to fight MVP, yeah. I'm very proud of that one also. I've done so many deals, you know what I mean? Like, I can sit there and say the Nike deal. I can sit there and say this one and that. It's just, when you watch a guy like Mike, a lot of people, like, will look at it and say, oh, what's he really got going on? Or, what did he do? For him to go get the payday he's getting now to fight MVP in London in bare knuckle, I'm super proud of that. You know what I'm saying?
That was the one that came out of nowhere. That, like, obviously, who was anticipating that? Nobody. Yeah. But as soon as it got announced, like, when it got announced, I was like, hold on, let me make sure somebody's not trolling. Make sure this account is real, But it's amazing. I was talking to MVP the other day, and I told him the same thing. He's like, it's the fight that nobody knew they wanted to see, but now everybody wants to see it. And I'm like, you're so right. And by the way, Mike Perry and bare knuckle, love it. Absolutely love it, man.
See, but when you ask that question, right, like Valerie Loretta to WWE, is there any other manager that you watch that's really placing their guys where they fit? No one's moving guys around the way I am. You know what I mean? The way Abraham does, the way Lou does, the way all of the guys in my office do. And I think that's kind of, the issue is that a lot of guys are like, not everybody can be a UFC fighter, right? And not everybody should be a UFC fighter. Not everybody should be in the PFL. Not everybody should be in Bellator. So you got to find what fits for certain people. And when we had the opportunity to do that, listen, how about Paige Van Zandt going from the UFC to bare knuckle also? I'm super proud of that deal. The fact that Paige Van Zandt's a multi-millionaire, right? And I know that she's set up for the rest of her life. To me, that, I hang. So that's why I'm saying to you, there's not one. Listen, Darius Leonard's $100 million contract in the NFL. Yeah. He's the highest paid inside linebacker. Or how about David Njoku getting paid, $56 million, being top 4 paid tight end. And I was sitting in the car and the cab driver said, hey, bro, we're kind of pissed off about that. You're the guy that did that deal. You know what I mean? He should never have gotten paid that. And those are the deals you hang your hat on. That's the ones that you sit back and you say, like, you really did something that a lot of people didn't expect you to do. And I think that's kind of the deals that I take a lot of pride in, right? It's the ones that no one really knows about and really gets. I mean, listen, dude, look, I can tell you guys stories about deals and shit like that you hear that I'm like, bro, guys, that's not a good deal, and that's not a good deal, and that's not a good deal. And then that's a good deal. There's some guys that, are getting it done. But others, you know what I mean? It's just like you're getting to that top, and then there's nothing there, and so it's hard. But there's.
Well, and I think you can see the pride. It just comes out. Like I can feel that fact that you care, like about Paige Van Zandt being set up for life. Like it's more than just a number on a paper. It's more
when you guys get Bo here, ask him what I told him yesterday. I said, you're a young dude. I can get you to the title shot probably pretty fast. I think you could dominate the sport. But at some point, once you've had enough money and you think you're set for the rest of your life, you need to be able to walk away from it. I don't like guys having to need the fight, right? Like, I like the fact that Masvidal wants to fight. I like the fact that John wants to fucking go get this next 2 fights. You know what I mean? Win the heavyweight belt and maybe walk out, go off into the stage. He's 35 years old. He's got plenty of money. So at the end of the day, right, I want guys to make all the money they can and then walk away from the sport, set. Whether it's that, businesses, other things. And that's kind of like where we're at. Like guys don't understand. I don't show up to a lot of those fights anymore, not because I don't enjoy it or I don't want to come to it. I'm busy running the business. But when I say the business, there's businesses that Paige owns. There's businesses that Masvidal owns. There's businesses that we own that we're doing for the fighters, for our football players, that we are the ones that are the manpower and the brainchild behind, and they're the face, right? And so and that's kind of some of the stuff that we're focused on now. So a lot of guys come in like, oh, Mike, you think you give me a sponsorship? Like, nah, that's not who I am, bro. Like, I can get you sponsors, but I'm not doing the $1,000 show up here and, hey, I'm a UFC fighter here. That's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at how do I, because if there's no 401k, if there is no shit that everybody's complaining about, what are we doing about it as managers? And that's kind of where I'm looking at finding a solution. Like, bro, people miss this. 2 years ago, I was the only agent offering insurance.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was doing health insurance, and I was getting guys insurance for like $30 a month, $100 a month, $200 a month. And I was telling fighters, like, sign up for this shit. Right. There's these programs out there. Get out there and get it done. And I went through the whole, I had every one of my guys call each fighter. You have insurance? No, I don't. Boom. Call this, check the thing. $85 a month. Bang. Done deal. And started making guys get insurance. So some guys were able to take it, some guys weren't. But you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, you always have to, like, figure out, just because the UFC doesn't provide it, if the NFL doesn't provide it, what am I supposed to do? Sit there and say, hey, guys, I'm sorry. The corporate owner, I got it. And I'm, a corporation, I guess, right? So I have health insurance. UFC doesn't give it to you. Oh, I'm sorry, too bad. Oh, the NFL doesn't do this for you. Too bad. I think that's kind of like, that's where the problem is. You know what I mean? That's the issue, is guys are more interested in being this so-called 800-pound gorilla. I represent this guy and I represent that guy. I mean, pendulum shift in this business one day to the next. If you remember my heyday, it was John Jones, Ben Henderson, Carlos Condit, right? And then it was, Demetrius Johnson and Tyron Woodley with John Jones, right? Boom. And then you got the Dominic Cruzes and the Anthony Pettis's and all these different guys who represent, right? And then one day, Usman beats a Masvidal, Cejudo beats a Demetrius Johnson, a John Jones goes and gets in trouble, and I sit back and I don't got no champs.
Yeah, your dominoes are falling down. And it's like,
you know what I mean? Instead, I got no champs. So now all of a sudden, it's funny because I see a lot of these new fighters, and they swear to God, some of the managers that they got are like better than me, and I'm like, wait, what? But you're just young. You just don't know, like, really, who the OG in the game really is. So that's kind of what it is.
Is it hard to get people to convince people? Because you said it right. Like, everybody wants to be in the UFC. Everybody that's in the gym training, they're like, I want to be in the UFC. As you said, you've done a good job of saying, no, you can make more money over here. This might be. Well, we're here. The UFC is the leader in the industry. There's no doubt about it. But you could be a big fish in a different pond, right? But is it hard to get people to buy into that dream or to buy into that?
I mean, here's the deal. If Bellator's offering you 10-10 and the UFC's offering you 10-10, you're going to the UFC every single day of the week, right? But when you got the PFL and Bellator trying to outbid the UFC for you, and you're a fighter, listen, especially if you're a young fighter, it's not a bad idea to go develop at some of these other companies. Again, but they got matching rights, and I'll be there like, I don't want to be like, Michael Chandler that came late. I go, Michael Chandler came late and is tearing it up, whether he's winning or losing. The guy's
just a big check.
You know what I mean? He's cashing big check, right? So it's not bad to go to some of these other promotions and develop some other top tier talent and go from there. It's just that I think that fighters don't they do not want to be told. See, here's the other thing too, right? Now, John, what it is that when I talk to a fighter, I'm telling them straight up from the get-go, if I can't tell you the truth, I can't represent you. Okay? So if you think you're bigger than the sport already, if you think you're bigger than your teammates in the room, and you might be in some cases, but in a lot of others you're not, and you think you're that guy. I've been doing this for 20 years, and you might have been fighting for 5 or 6, but you're not on this big stage doing this, right? I know what big guys are getting. I know how it took. I remember when I met John, his first thing to me was, people don't know the story, but it took me almost 6 months of recruiting John to sign John. And when I finally signed him, he said, yo, the only deal I really want is to be a Nike athlete. And from that day, I told him it's going to take you 2 years to get that deal. And I told him you have to win the belt, and then the opportunity will be there. It's going to take us at least 2 years, a year after you defending the belt. And sure enough, a year and change later, we went and got that deal done. He listened. He understood the plan. He went with it. A lot of guys don't have that patience. They feel like, I need everything right now.
You got to get it now.
So it's tough. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. It's part of the game. You know what I mean? Some guys, like, look, I remember Shane Burgos when he was a free agent. PFL offered him I'm talking about massive deal. So I want to be UFC champ. All right, cool. And that's the thing. As a manager, whatever your dreams are, you got to go do that, right? Was it the wrong decision? No, it wasn't. For him, this was the right choice. He makes good money. He's got, his life set up where he's at. And because he's a UFC fighter, if he ever left the UFC, he's going to be okay. I think a lot of people don't give the UFC credit for that also. I've been able to move Anthony Pettis, Paige Van Zandt because they were UFC fighters.
It's cachet, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. You know what I'm saying? So they might not have gotten it here, but then they went and got it somewhere else. And I think that's very, very, very important for fighters to understand. Like, you can come to the UFC and do the best you can, but if you get to a point, like, look, Mike Perry, I hate to say this, I don't think he was going to ever become UFC champ. There were some holes in his game. And the way, at that time, he was bouncing from gym to gym. Things were kind of a little out of order. He goes to a bare knuckle fighting thing, and it's like he found his home. Did he want to stay in the UFC? Yes. Could he have stayed in the UFC? Absolutely. Was it the right move? 1,000%. I'll tell you this much. He beats MVP. I think he's got one fight left on his contract at BKFC. He could easily come back to the UFC. Easily come back to the UFC. And I know Dave Feldman. By the way, Dave Feldman is one of the best promoters in this game, and he's a great guy. And I think a lot of fighters should look at bare knuckle as an option afterwards if that's something they want to do, or if you're a fighter coming up and you're a boxer and you're not really good at the traditional boxing, there might be a different lane for you at BKFC. He's a phenomenal dude, and he's opened doors for a lot of fighters and given a lot of people opportunities. So that's the issue, right? People are not willing to do what they don't know. So it's like Bellator, PFL, UFC. That's it. And there's other promotions out there. KSW is a great promotion in Poland, right? You got BKFC is another one I'm talking about. Listen, WWE, AEW, you know what I mean? But I just think a lot of people don't know. And that's the thing. Like, oh, I want to be a wrestler. Cool. We got to go to wrestling practice. Oh, I want to be an actor. You got to go to acting classes. So you got to, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to, like, sit with somebody and say, this is what you want to do, and here's the path to get there. And the guys who follow are the ones who always have that success.
Well, to be able to have that candor, too, like you said, like, oh, I hate to say it, but you've had that conversation with Mike. And
so Mike? Yeah.
So,
listen,
it says a lot about
every one of my guys.
Listen,
if you see one of my clients fighting way past when they should, don't think that I did not tell them they should stop.
Right. Well, because wouldn't you say that you failed them as a manager? If that's
well, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had an offer the other day for Carlos Condit to box, and I got the number up to $1 million, $1 million and change, I think it was. I called them up. I said, "Yo, I hope the answer is no. As a manager, I gotta call you with every offer because I don't want you to think I'm holding things from you. But you're done, right?" He's like, "Yeah, all right, cool. Even for money?" He's like, "Yeah, 100%. Why?" "Oh, there's a boxing match you can have, but you know what I mean? I don't know that we want to take that damage from there." Yeah, I told him it was for $1 million. He was like, "Oh shit!" And I was like, "Nah." But listen, you gotta understand though. But you know what I mean? The money ain't worth it.
That's Carlos.
I'm in.
The money isn't worth it. You know what I mean? The money isn't worth it. The money's not worth it because if the eye is fucked up and you know what I mean, if there's he had concerns that
it's not baseball.
No, bro, it's like you got to understand. There's a lot of head trauma in this business, and the guys need to understand. Like when you start feeling certain ways and you're getting older, it's harder for you to be in the gym. It's time for you to hang them up, and it's okay.
It doesn't
just
get better either.
Listen, Frank Gore played football for 16 years, and then he went to go to boxing. And I understand that these competitors, they need something else to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm kind of coming up with. I'm trying to figure out how to keep them busy after the fact, and that's where my brain's gone. So it's like, hey, oh, you're into coffee and you want to do this cannabis coffee shit? Let's go do it. You know what I mean? Let's go figure out how to do that. So you can just go over there and do that, and then you can go get high drinking coffee, right? But that's kind of what we do.
What's this company?
Yeah.
How do you sort of tread the line between being a manager, having a manager-client relationship, and being a friend and an ally? Because they are the same in some way. So you have to separate that.
You have to be able to you have to understand that there's lines to everything, right? There's boundaries to everything. So like I'm being interviewed right now, right? There's a certain decorum that I should have. Whether I have it or not is a different story, right? But there's a certain thing that I'm supposed to have, right? But like at some point, I'm not allowed to come in here and just be disrespectful towards you, nor should you to be that to me, right? But I also understand, like me and John, we go back for a long time. We're friends. I consider John a friend. If John starts asking me questions that I'm uncomfortable with, right, then it's my job to politely say, "Hey, John, I don't want to." And if he keeps pushing, right, there's got to be some sort of understanding that that's his job to try to pull some stuff out. Me being the interviewed right now, I have to also understand it's my job not to say anything I don't want to say. See what I'm saying? So I look at it from that same perspective. So when I tell a fighter the truth, it's always with, listen, you want me to tell you the truth? Or you want me just to be your friend and kiss your ass? And then, no, I want you to tell me the truth. All right, listen, you fucking sucked in your last fight. Here's the situation. Boom, 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 boom. And here's what the problem is. No, but listen, if you think that's not a conversation didn't happen with guys like even Masvidal, right? Like a lot of people want to, like, listen, you saw Dylan Dennis's post. How's Masvidal? Masvidal will never be great with idiots like this around him because Abraham was kind of trying to console him.
Right.
If you guys think that we did not sit with him and tell him the fucking truth, but you got cameras on, he's there right now, he just lost. Hey, bro, you got out-wrestled. Which, I mean, really, everybody says he got outstruck, but he really didn't. You know what I mean? That's not the case. But my point is that we sit down with the guys and we let them know, like, hey, bro, this is not working, this is not working. So, like Masvidal, for example, has gone to take measures now to help him in the wrestling department, okay? And he maybe 3 days ago called me and says, bro, I'm doing this. I'm not going to say what it is, right? And I said, okay, what made you do that? And he's like, bro, I've been doing the same thing for 17 years, and it hasn't gotten any better. So at what point do I realize, you know what I mean, I got to myself have had with him. You know what I mean? You get fighters that look bad in fights, and then they don't know what the fuck to blame it on, but they were smoking, for 6 months prior to the fight. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, buddy, you might want to slow down on the marijuana. So my point of what I'm saying to you is, right, we do not hold back from telling a fighter the truth. I am not afraid to tell a fighter it's time to retire. I'm not afraid to tell a fighter, hey, it's time to move on. You know what I mean? Because watching a guy get knocked out or beat up really bad is not something that I enjoy at all. And by the way, whether it's my client or another client, I would not want to see a Bo Nickal beat up Israel Adesanya 5 years from now, who's still fighting, who lost the belt. Let's say he loses the belt tomorrow to my client, the killer gorilla Jared Cannonier, right, which he very well may. And then in the next 5 years, he's taking knockout after knockout. And then now all of a sudden, Israel Adesanya, the once great champ, looks like, how Anderson did in the very end, right? And then you got guys like Bo Nickal coming in, beating him up, cutting him up and hurting him, and eyes are swollen, all that. For as much as you think that that's satisfying, the win is, right? But seeing somebody get beat up like that, you know what I mean? I don't wish that on nobody. So I hope that all these dudes win their belts, make all the money they can, and when the minute they realize, hey, I'm done, like George, right? Because George should have really, he probably lost that last fight to what's his name, to Hendricks, right? Yeah. But he came back and won the 85 belt, and then he said, fuck it, I'm not really that guy anymore, so I'm gone. Smart. You know what I mean? Look, Khabib won at 29-0. You would think he should have fought at least one time, just got the 30, right? Yeah. But he made promises and he stuck to them, and I respect that. I actually respect things like that. And you know what I mean? Look, now he's a fucking phenomenal coach, and he's got his whole family fighting, and they're all undefeated stud prospects. And you know what I mean? I think there's joy in watching that, right? Like you go on to the next guy. But watching an old dude fight a young dude and just watch the young dude beat him up when he's well past his prime. It's because, dude, you know what it is? Think about this, right? How badass is BJ Penn in his prime, right? How badass is Shamrock in his prime? How badass is like all these different dudes? But then when you remember them, what do you remember, right? The last end. Yeah, and it's like, dude, you think of BJ and you're like, oh, I don't ever want to watch him fight again. And it's like, nah, but if you would have watched BJ prime, you were watching the dude that used to jump out of the pool.
That's what I mean. You know what drives me crazy? Like, there's an era of fans that all they know is like the end of Anderson Silva's career. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, it's so wild, right? Like, you sit there and you watch it, and that's the thing, right? Like, they only know certain things. They don't know the sport the way we know it. And it's like, John Jones is the baddest motherfucker that walks this earth. You can sit here and you can try to promote Khabib all you want. Nobody's strength of schedule ever will match. You know what? Actually,
dominating for a decade in a division, like, beating
everybody. And doing it not the way everybody else does it, right? So for me, it's like, you know what I mean? Again, another one. Khabib's a GOAT in his own sense, in his own right. But man, you know what I mean? That fan base now only knows Khabib, right? In the end, and how dominant he was in his reign. Nobody really saw that John Jones. Because remember, ESPN changed everything for the UFC. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you're coming up in this ESPN era, it's a completely different ballgame. Chuck Liddell was, had the scariest hands ever, and guys are like, oh, Iceman, he got knocked out by so, or if they even know that part, if they even know him, you know what I mean? So that's the part that gets me.
Well, I tell you what, man, if John Jones is able to win the UFC heavyweight title, like, there's not even, I don't even think, how do you even have a discussion anymore? Like,
I don't think light heavyweight now.
No, listen, I mean, pound for pound. I mean, if John Jones was 125 pounds with those skills, he'd dominate everybody. it's like not even worth the conversation.
I don't think people really understand that. Like even in his last 5 fights or 6 fights, whatever it is. First off, let's just make sure we really look at John's resume and let's make sure that we update it. Glover Teixeira was just recently the champion. John Jones played with Teixeira in Teixeira's prime.
Yeah.
Okay.